Hello everyone, we are Team 3. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Peng Yu.
I'm Chen.
I am Yuhong.
I'm Yilu.
I am chairman.
Today we will be sharing our key takeaway from the Global Excited interview we conducted for Management 481 Global Strategy. Through this conversation, we discovered that many of the ideas are very similar to what we learn in class, such as competitive advantage, global strategy, and innovation leadership. In today's presentation, we will highlight the most important lessons from this interview and explain how they related to the topics we studied. So let's Chen Yu talk about next part.
Okay, so I will share the key insights from the interview we had first. So one of the interviewee who really stood out to us was Mr. Brain. What impressed us a lot was how real and practical his examples were when he talked about the leadership. He said that leaders' job isn't just to tell people what to do, it's to explain why we are doing it. He mentioned that one of your most important roles as a leader is not just explaining what we are going to do, but why. That really made sense to me because when people understand the reason behind the plan, they actually care more and feel part of the goal. And he also shared how small actions can shape culture. For example, he said a district internal promotion within the first month. So others look at those people and said, wow, couldn't happen to a better guy. I really like the story because it shows that it really shows that the leadership isn't about the big speeches, it's about setting examples that build fairness and motivation. And lastly, he talked about being consistent and clear. When people know both the direction and the reason, he said they will get they'll get behind it faster. Honestly, I just how simple but real his point were. It is about communication, trust, and making people feel included. And next slide, please. Another interviewee who really left an impression on us was Mr. Gary. He had this goal mindset that felt very practical and easy to relate to. Firstly, he said something that really stuck with me. You've got to think globally but act locally. He talked about how leading international terms means you can't treat every county cultures and ways of working. I thought that was a really smart point because it was something you can actually see in the real business. He also talked about the communication and hierarchy. He said, I like to remove the hierarchy aspects. You don't wait in the shows. He want people to speak up and not feel blocked by titles. And that kind of openness can make a big difference in how teams work learning. He said they're not going away. You've got to amplify your skills and abilities in the workforce. What I took from that is that new tools like AI aren't something to fear. They're just part of how leadership keeps evolving. And finally, he talked about continuous improvement. That means how you define, measure, and repeat. It sounds a bit technical, but the idea was simple. The idea was always find way to do things better. It just remind me on where you are and who you are working with. Okay, next slide.
I'd like to share what I learned from Bethany's talk. And the first thing that really stood out to me is that a career path doesn't have to be straight. And we often think success means follow on one clear path. But Bethany's story showed me that as long as we know what we want and stay focused, every experience can still help us grow. And she moved from the US State Department of PepsiCo, and I think that's a big change. But she proved that the different experience that can still connect if we have a clear goal. And the second thing that I learned is that responsibility and business strategy can go hand in hand. She talked about PepsiCo's work on human rights, like checking their supply chains to make sure there's no child labor. And that made me realize that the social responsibility isn't just for a good image and is actually part of a company's long-term success. So if a company ignores these issues, it can lose people's trust and even its competitive edge. From my personally, her talk really changed how I think about strategy. It's not only about profit, and it's also about long term impact and managing risk before problems happen. And companies need to stay flexible and ready to adapt to different countries and markets. And finally, Bethany remind me that real success isn't about our title or position. It's about staying true to our values and making a positive difference through our work. And please, next page.
I will talk about Paul's speech. One of the biggest things I learned is that expanding a business internationally is not just about chasing growth. It's also about managing risk. Paul has worked in many countries, including China, France, and India. Through his real-life examples, I realized that entering a new market means facing different laws, cultures, and business rules. It's not enough to just see the opportunity. You have to understand the environment you are stepping into. He shared a story, the real stuff with me. While managing a team in France, the company couldn't fire employees who was on sick leave for 50 years because of strict labor laws. These things help me understand how local laws can seriously affect how a company operates. It reminded me that when build global strategies, companies must study the legal and the cultural system of each country. Otherwise, every well-planned strategy can run into trouble. And Paul also said something I agree with. Every company is a data company. This made me think about how important data has become in every industry. Companies now believe on data to make decisions, improve performance, and stay competitive. At the same time, they need to protect that data and flowing process laws. In future business strategies, I believe data security and smart data use will be key to long-term success. Overall, Paul's speech let me know a successful strategy is not just about moving fast or growing big. It's about being flexible, respecting local difference, and balances opportunities with risks. These lessons are not only useful for companies, they are also helpful for us individuals planning our career in a global world. Next page.
For our last executive, I'll be talking about Chad Held, the co-founder of Solus Bands, a company that creates premium and comfortable Apple Watch bands. Chad's story highlights how entrepreneurial innovation, and global strategy can come together to create a strong competitive advantage. First, in terms of innovation through customer centric design, Chad and his co founder noticed a gap in the market. Luxury bands were selling for about $100, while cheap ones on Amazon were about 7, with nothing in between. They turned a simple watch band into a lifestyle product based on comfort and design. That kind of customer focused innovation shows what we've discussed in class about product differentiation. Finding ways to stand out without necessarily relying on new technology. Second, they leveraged global resources for strategic growth. Solus Bands built a global supply chain, sourcing products from China, using virtual assistants in Philippines, and delivering in the US. This approach shows vertical integration and outsourcing decisions that align perfectly with global strategic principles like staying lean, efficient, and scalable while focusing on their strengths. Last, Chad emphasized reinvestment and sustainable scaling. Instead of taking early profits, they reinvested revenue back into inventory and infrastructure to grow the business. That discipline reflects a Rio based advantage, building valuable, rare, and organized resources that competitors can't easily copy. As Chad put it himself, you have to reinvest into a company and build your inventory up if you want to scale it at all. Overall, Chad Held's journey shows that innovation isn't just about creating new technology. It's about combining creativity, global efficiency, and discipline strategy to build a continuously lasting competitive advantage. And next slide.
Yeah. Finally, through these interviews, we learned that great global leaders have the similar quality, clear goal, flexibility, and a strong sense of purpose. This showed us that strategy is not just about winning, but also about responsibility and culture. We also realized that innovation is more than technology. It's about trust and long-term value. These talks help us connect what we learn in class to real business life and inspired us to keep learning with a global view. Thank you, everyone.